My mom used my emergency savings to buy my sister a designer wedding dress. When I confronted her, she said, "She deserves it more, you'll never get married anyway." I didn't argue. I just packed a single bag and left, but I also took something from the attic. 3 days later, the wedding was called off, and now my mom won't leave her room. Thank you for being here with me today. I hope you're having a peaceful day wherever you are. If you're watching this around the holidays, especially alone, I'd love for you to share in the comments where you are and how you're spending this season. It means a lot that you're here. Now let's begin this story together. I'm Sarah, 28, from a small town in Ohio called Millfield. I'm the kind of person who's always had a plan, work hard, save up, stay out of trouble. I've been grinding at my office manager job for 6 years, squirreling away every extra dollar for a down payment on a house. That's my dream, a little place of my own, maybe with a porch swing. Growing up, I was the responsible one in our family. My mom, Diane, always leaned on me to keep things together, bills, errands, you name it. But her heart, that was always with my younger sister, Emily. Emily's 24, the golden child, always in the spotlight. She's the one who got new clothes, dance lessons, all the attention. I didn't mind much, or at least I told myself I didn't. I'd stay quiet, head down, saving my money while Mom planned Emily's perfect life. But when I found out my emergency savings, $15,000 I'd scraped together over years, was gone, it hit me like a punch. Mom took it for Emily's wedding for a dress that cost more than my car. I kept thinking she'll pay me back right, but deep down I knew better. That money was my safety net, my future, and it was gone because I was never the priority. I don't want to sound bitter, but it's hard not to feel invisible sometimes. Mom's always had this way of making me feel like my dreams don't matter as much as Emily's, like my life's just a supporting role in hers. That moment, staring at my empty bank account, something shifted. I wasn't just hurt, I was done. Done being the good daughter who takes it all in silence. What happened next changed everything, and it started with a fight I never saw coming. Let me paint you a picture of my family so you get why this whole thing cut so deep. My mom, Diane, is 52, the kind of woman who cares more about what the neighbors think than what's happening under her own roof. She's not a bad person, but she's got this need to look perfect, perfect house, perfect family, perfect life. Growing up in Millfield, Ohio, a town where everyone knows your business, that image was everything to her. She'd spend hours bragging about our family at church or posting about us on Facebook, but it was always clear who the star of her story was: my younger sister, Emily. Emily's 24, 4 years younger than me, and she's always been Mom's pride and joy. She's got this charm, big smile, bubbly laugh, the kind of person who lights up a room. When we were kids, Mom would buy her new dresses for every school dance while I got hand-me-downs. Emily got ballet lessons. I got extra chores. I'm not saying I was neglected, but it was like I was the stagehand and Emily was the lead actress. I learned to live with it, telling myself it didn't matter. I had my job, my savings, my plans. But looking back, I see how much I let slide. Then came Emily's engagement. She met Josh, a lawyer from Columbus, at some fancy networking event. He's 30, good-looking, comes from money. The kind of guy Mom dreamed of for Emily. When he proposed, Mom went into overdrive. This wasn't just a wedding, it was her Super Bowl. She'd call me at work to rant about venues, flowers, guest lists, details I had no say in, but was expected to care about. Emily's wedding was going to be the talk of Millfield, and Mom was determined to make it flawless. She'd say things like, "This is Emily's moment, Sarah. We all have to pitch in." I nodded along, but I didn't realize pitching in meant my life savings. I'd been saving for years, $15,000 to be exact. Every overtime shift, every skipped coffee run, every time I said no to a night out, it went into that account. It was my emergency fund, my ticket to a house, maybe even a fresh start someday. I kept it in a separate savings account, one Mom had access to from years ago when I was still a teenager. I never thought she'd touch it. But one day, I logged in to check my balance and my heart stopped. 0. Not a penny left. I called the bank thinking it was a mistake, but they confirmed a transfer to another account, Mom's. I dug deeper and found out why. Emily's wedding dress. Not just any dress, but a $10,000 designer gown from some boutique in Cincinnati. The kind of dress you see in magazines with lace and crystals and a train that takes 2 people to carry. The rest of my money gone on other wedding expenses, catering deposits, a string quartet, who knows what else. Mom didn't even ask. She just took it like my savings were her personal piggy bank. I sat there staring at my laptop, feeling like the ground had dropped out from under me. This wasn't just about money. It was about me, my work, my dreams, my trust being worth less than Emily's big day. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe Mom thought I'd be okay with it. Maybe she'd pay me back. I even called Emily, hoping she'd be as shocked as I was, but she just giggled and said, "Oh, Sarah, it's just money. You'll save more." Like it was nothing. Like my years of sacrifice were a rounding error in her fairy tale wedding. That's when it hit me. To them, I was just the reliable one, the one who'd take the hit and keep quiet. But I wasn't quiet anymore. I was furious. I knew I had to confront Mom even though I dreaded it. She'd always had a way of turning things around, making me feel guilty for questioning her. But this time, I couldn't let it go. I drove to her house, my hands shaking on the wheel, ready for a fight I'd never had the guts to start before. I pulled into Mom's driveway, my stomach in knots. The house looked the same as always, neat lawn flowers by the porch, the picture of small-town perfection. But inside, I knew things were about to get messy. I'd spent the whole drive from my apartment rehearsing what to say, my anger building with every mile. My $15,000 every late shift, every skipped vacation, every moment I put my life on hold was gone. Stolen. Not by a stranger, but by my own mother. For a dress. I wasn't just mad. I felt like my whole world had been yanked out from under me. I found Mom in the kitchen, flipping through a wedding magazine, humming like nothing was wrong. Emily was upstairs, probably on the phone with her fiancé Josh, gushing about the big day. The normalcy of it all made my blood boil. I took a deep breath and said, "Mom, we need to talk. Why did you take my savings?" My voice was steady, but inside I was shaking. She didn't even look up at first, just waved her hand like I was interrupting her. "Sarah, relax. It's for Emily's wedding. You want her to have the best, don't you?" I stood there stunned. She said it so casually, like it was obvious I'd be okay with it. I pressed harder. "That was my money, Mom. $15,000, my emergency fund. You didn't even ask." Finally, she put the magazine down, her eyes narrowing. "Sarah, don't make this a thing. Emily's getting married to a lawyer. This is her moment. You've got your job, you'll save more." Her tone was sharp, like I was being selfish for even bringing it up. I felt my face get hot. My job. My savings. That was for my future, Mom. You had no right. That's when it got ugly. She stood up, crossing her arms. "Your future, Sarah, let's be real. You're not the marrying type. You're too independent. Emily deserves this more. You'll never need that kind of money for a wedding." The words hit like a slap. I'd spent years brushing off Mom's little digs, how I was too serious, too plain, too focused on work. But this was her saying I didn't matter, not just to her, but to anyone. I wanted to scream, to cry, to throw something. Instead, I just stared at her, my throat tight, my heart pounding. I tried one last time. "Mom, that money was mine. You can't just decide it's not important because it's me." She sighed like I was exhausting her. "Sarah, stop being dramatic. Family helps family. You'll get over it." That was it, the moment I realized she'd never see me. Not really. Emily was the daughter who counted. I was just the one who paid the bills. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just turned and walked out of the kitchen, her voice calling after me, "Don't make a scene, Sarah." But I was done listening. Upstairs, I could hear Emily laughing on the phone, probably planning her honeymoon. I felt like I was suffocating. My whole life I'd been the good daughter, the one who didn't make waves. I'd let Mom's favoritism slide, let Emily's entitlement slide, let my own dreams take a back seat. But this was different. This wasn't just about money. It was about respect, about my place in this family. Or lack of it. Standing in the hallway, I made a choice. I wasn't going to beg for what was mine. I wasn't going to fight for scraps of their approval anymore. I went to my old bedroom, grabbed a duffel bag, and started packing. Just the essentials: clothes, my laptop, a few photos. I didn't know where I'd go yet, maybe my friend Lisa's couch, but I knew I couldn't stay. As I zipped up the bag, I glanced at the attic door. Something pulled me toward it like a gut instinct. I'd always avoided that dusty old space full of Mom's forgotten junk. But right then, I needed to know what she was hiding, because if she could take my money without a second thought, what else was she capable of? That's when I decided I wasn't leaving empty-handed. I was going to find something, anything that would make this right. I stood in the hallway, my duffel bag slung over my shoulder, the weight of Mom's words still burning in my chest. You'll never get married anyway. It wasn't just the money she'd taken, $15,000, every cent I'd clawed together working overtime at my office manager job in Millfield, Ohio. It was the way she said it, like my life didn't matter, like my dreams were a footnote to Emily's fairy tale. I could still hear Emily upstairs giggling on the phone with Josh, her fiancé, planning a wedding I'd unknowingly paid for. The sound made my skin crawl. I was done with being the invisible daughter, done with swallowing my hurt to keep the peace. I didn't plan to leave forever when I walked into Mom's house that day. I thought maybe we'd fight, maybe she'd apologize, maybe I'd get some answers. But after that confrontation, I knew staying wasn't an option. I couldn't keep living in a house where I was just the bank account for Emily's perfect life. My car was parked outside a beat-up Honda I'd bought secondhand, and I figured I'd crash at my friend Lisa's place in Columbus until I sorted things out. But before I left, something stopped me. The attic door at the end of the hall, half hidden behind a faded curtain, was calling my name. I'd always avoided the attic. It was Mom's domain, stuffed with old boxes, Christmas decorations, and junk she couldn't let go of. As kids, Emily and I were forbidden from going up there. Mom said it was too dangerous. But I always suspected she just didn't want us poking around. Standing there, bag in hand, I felt this pull, like the attic held answers I needed. If Mom could take my savings without a blink, what else was she hiding? I dropped my bag, climbed the creaky pull-down ladder, and flicked on the single bulb dangling from the ceiling. The attic smelled like dust and mildew, the air thick with years of neglect. Boxes were stacked haphazardly, some labeled Diane's keepsakes or old clothes. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but I started digging. Old photo albums, yellowed tax documents, a broken lamp, nothing special. Then, tucked behind a pile of moth-eaten blankets, I found a small, unmarked metal lockbox. It was heavy, the kind of thing you'd hide something important in. My heart raced. I shook it, and something inside rattled softly, papers maybe, or jewelry. The lock was flimsy, and with a hairpin from my pocket I popped it open. Inside were letters, dozens of them, tied with a faded red ribbon. They were addressed to Mom in handwriting I didn't recognize. My hands trembled as I untied the bundle and started reading. The first letter was dated 20 years ago, from a man named Robert. The words hit like a freight train. Diane, I can't stop thinking about you. I know it's wrong, but I love you. My stomach churned. Robert wasn't my dad. Dad passed away when I was 10, and these letters were from after that. They detailed an affair, dates, secret meetups, promises to run away together. There were photos, too. Mom and some guy smiling at a diner, his arm around her like she was his whole world. I sat back, my breath shallow. Mom had always played the grieving widow, the perfect mother, the pillar of Millfield's church community. But this was a secret that could ruin her. In our small town, where gossip spreads like wildfire, something like this would destroy her precious reputation. I didn't know who Robert was, but I knew what these letters meant: leverage. Proof that Mom wasn't the saint she pretended to be. Part of me wanted to storm downstairs and shove the letters in her face, demand my money back, demand an apology. But another part, the part that had been quiet for too long, had a different idea. I stuffed the letters and photos into my bag, my mind racing. I wasn't sure what I'd do with them, but I knew they were important. Maybe I'd confront Mom later, maybe I'd use them to get my money back, Or maybe I'd just hold on to them as a reminder that I wasn't the only one with secrets. I climbed down from the attic, the lockbox still in my hands, and took one last look around the house. Emily's laughter echoed from upstairs, and I could hear Mom humming in the kitchen again like our fight never happened. I grabbed my duffel bag and walked out the front door without saying goodbye. The drive to Lisa's apartment in Columbus was a blur. I kept replaying Mom's words, the way she dismissed me, the way Emily didn't even care. Lisa welcomed me with a hug and a glass of wine, no questions asked. I didn't tell her about the letters, not yet. I needed time to think. That night, lying on her couch, I couldn't sleep. The letters were burning a hole in my bag, and so was my anger. I'd spent my life being the good daughter, the one who never made trouble, who paid for everyone else's happiness. But for what? To be told I'd never be enough. By the next morning, I'd made up my mind. I wasn't going to let Mom and Emily walk all over me anymore. I didn't want to destroy them, but I wanted them to feel what I felt: betrayed, exposed, powerless. I pulled out the letters and read them again, each one making me angrier. Then I noticed something else in the lockbox, a small note tucked at the bottom with Josh's last name on it. Robert's last name. My heart stopped. Was Robert Josh's father? The dates lined up. If this was true, Mom's affair wasn't just a scandal. It was tied to Emily's perfect fiancé. I didn't know if I'd use the letters yet, but I knew they were my way out. I spent the next 2 days at Lisa's, ignoring Mom's calls and Emily's texts asking why I was being so dramatic. I wasn't dramatic. I was done. On the 3rd day, I made a choice. I scanned the letters and photos, put them in an envelope, and mailed them anonymously to Josh's office in Columbus. No note, no explanation, just the truth. Then I waited. I didn't know what would happen, but I knew I'd shaken the foundation of Mom's perfect little world. And for the first time in years, I felt like I was finally in control. 3 days after I mailed the envelope, my phone started buzzing with texts from Emily. "How could you do this? You've ruined everything. Mom's a mess because of you." I didn't respond. I was still crashing on Lisa's couch in Columbus, trying to piece together what my next move would be. My hands were still shaking from what I'd done sending those letters from the attic to Josh, Emily's fiancé. I didn't know exactly what would happen, but I knew those letters, proof of Mom's affair with a man named Robert, would hit like a grenade. And they did. By the end of that 3rd day, Emily's dream wedding was canceled, and Mom had locked herself in her room. Let me back up. After I left Mom's house with the lockbox, I was a wreck. The letters and photos I found in the attic, love notes from Robert to Mom, pictures of them together, all from after Dad died, were a secret I never expected. They showed Mom wasn't the perfect widow she'd built her life around being. In Millfield, where she was the queen of church potlucks and PTA meetings, this kind of scandal would be catastrophic. But the real shock was the note at the bottom of the lockbox linking Robert's last name to Josh's. I wasn't 100% sure Robert was Josh's father, but the dates lined up and the possibility was enough to make me act. I didn't send the letters to hurt Emily, not really. I was angry, furious at Mom for taking my $15,000 savings, my emergency fund, to pay for Emily's $10,000 designer wedding dress and other wedding expenses. I was done being the invisible daughter, the one whose dreams didn't matter. When Mom said, "You'll never get married anyway," it wasn't just an insult. It was her writing me off. So when I mailed those letters to Josh anonymously, it was my way of saying, if my future doesn't matter, neither does yours. I wanted Mom to feel the weight of her choices, to see what it's like to have your world upended. The fallout came fast. Josh got the envelope on a Tuesday morning at his law firm in Columbus. I don't know exactly what he read or what he thought, but Lisa, who still had friends in Millfield, got the full story from the town gossip mill. Josh confronted Emily and Mom that same day. The letters didn't just reveal Mom's affair, they suggested Robert might be Josh's father, a man who'd left town years ago under murky circumstances. Josh, who came from a wealthy, image-conscious family, was horrified. His parents were pillars of their own community. and the idea of tying their name to a scandal like this was unthinkable. By that evening, he'd called off the engagement. Emily was devastated. Lisa told me she heard Emily sobbing at a local cafe, telling friends the wedding was off because Josh couldn't handle family drama. The $10,000 dress, the string quartet, the rented venue at the country club all canceled. Millfield buzzed with rumors. Some said Josh dumped Emily because of money troubles. Others whispered about secrets in the family. Mom, who'd built her whole identity on being the perfect mother with the perfect daughter, couldn't face it. She stopped going to church, skipped her book club, and according to Lisa's friend, locked herself in her bedroom with the curtains drawn. Emily's texts to me painted a picture Mom won't eat. She won't talk. "This is your fault, Sarah." I didn't feel the triumph I thought I would. Sitting on Lisa's couch staring at my phone, I felt a mix of vindication and guilt. I'd wanted Mom to hurt to understand what it felt like to lose something she cared about the way she'd taken my savings without a second thought. But seeing the wreckage, Emily's broken engagement, Mom's collapse, it was heavier than I expected. I kept replaying the moment I mailed the envelope, wondering if I'd gone too far. Had I destroyed my family over $15,000, or was this more about years of being pushed aside, of being told I was less than Emily? Lisa was my rock through it all. Over cheap wine and takeout pizza, she listened as I poured out everything, the savings, the fight, the attic, the letters. She didn't judge, just nodded and said, "You did what you had to do, Sarah. They didn't leave you a choice." Her words helped, but the guilt still gnawed at me. I wasn't a vengeful person, at least I didn't think I was. But I also knew I couldn't undo what I'd done. The letters were out there, the truth was out there, and Mom's perfect facade was crumbling. I thought about calling Mom, maybe even apologizing, but every time I picked up my phone I remembered her voice. Emily deserves it more. No, I wasn't going to crawl back. I'd spent my life making things easy for them, paying bills, keeping quiet, sacrificing my own goals. This time, I was choosing me. Still, I couldn't shake the image of Mom in her room alone, her world falling apart. I didn't want her to suffer forever, but I needed her to see me, to understand that I wasn't invisible. By the end of that week, I started hearing more from Lisa's friends. Emily was moving out, maybe to Columbus, to start over. Josh wasn't taking her calls, and his family had cut all ties. The town was still whispering, but the story was shifting. People were starting to talk about Mom's past rather than Emily's canceled wedding. I didn't know if I'd ever go back to Millfield, but I knew I couldn't stay with Lisa forever. I started looking for apartments, budgeting what little money I had left. The $15,000 was gone, and Mom hadn't offered to pay me back, not that I expected her to. But those letters, that secret I'd uncovered, gave me something else: power. For the first time, I felt like I'd taken control of my own story. I don't know if I'd call what I did revenge. It was more like justice, or maybe survival. I'd spent 28 years being the good daughter, the one who didn't make waves, who let Mom and Emily shine while I faded into the background. But that day in the attic, I found more than letters. I found my voice. And when I mailed them, I wasn't just exposing Mom's secrets. I was saying, I'm here. I matter. The wedding was off. Mom was broken, and I was starting over. It wasn't the ending I'd planned, but it was the beginning I needed. A week after the wedding imploded, I was still on Lisa's couch in Columbus, staring at my laptop, searching for apartments I could barely afford. The fallout from the letters I'd sent to Josh, proof of Mom's affair with a man named Robert, possibly his father, was still rippling through Millfield. Emily's $10,000 designer dress was back in its box, the venue deposit lost, and Mom was still holed up in her bedroom, avoiding the world. My phone had stopped buzzing with Emily's angry texts, but the silence felt heavier than the accusations. I'd gotten what I wanted in a way Mom and Emily felt the sting of their choices. But sitting there, with my savings gone and my family fractured, I didn't feel like a victor. I felt like someone starting from scratch. I moved out of Lisa's place a few days later, renting a tiny studio apartment on the edge of Columbus. It wasn't much: a creaky bed, a second-hand couch, and a view of a parking lot, but it was mine. For the first time in my life, I wasn't living for Mom or Emily or anyone else. I started picking up extra shifts at work, rebuilding my savings one paycheck at a time. It was slow, painful, even knowing my $15,000 emergency fund was gone spent on a wedding that never happened. But every dollar I saved now felt like a brick in a new foundation when I was building for myself. I didn't hear from Mom for weeks. Lisa's friend in Millfield said she'd started leaving her room, but she wasn't the same. No more church potlucks, no more Facebook posts about her perfect family. The town was still whispering about her past, and I knew those letters had cracked the facade she'd spent years polishing. Part of me felt guilty, like I'd gone too far. I'd mailed them to Josh out of anger, wanting Mom to hurt the way I did when she took my money and said I'd never get married. But seeing her unravel, knowing I'd caused it, wasn't as satisfying as I'd thought it would be. Emily, meanwhile, had left Millfield. She moved to Cincinnati, crashing with a friend and looking for a job. Lisa heard she was trying to start fresh, but I didn't reach out. Her texts had blamed me for everything: Josh dumping her, the wedding, collapsing, Mom's breakdown. Maybe she was right in a way. I'd lit the match. But I couldn't keep carrying the weight of her happiness, not when she'd never cared about mine. Still, I wondered if we'd ever talk again, if there was any way to mend what was broken. I wasn't ready to try, not yet. One night, about a month after the fallout, Mom called. I let it go to voicemail, my heart pounding as I listened to her message. Her voice was quiet, shaky, not the confident Diane I knew. "Sarah, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have taken your money. I didn't think it would hurt you this much. Can we talk?" I played it over and over, torn between relief and anger. She was apologizing, but it felt too late. I didn't call back right away. Instead, I set boundaries for the first time. When I finally called her, I kept it short. "I need space, Mom. I forgive you, but I'm not coming back yet." It was the hardest thing I'd ever said, but it felt like freedom. Looking back, I realized the letters weren't just about revenge. They were about standing up for myself, something I'd never done in 28 years. Growing up, I'd been the good daughter, the one who paid the bills, who stayed quiet while Emily got the spotlight. I'd let Mom's favoritism slide, let Emily's entitlement slide, let my own dreams take a back seat. But when Mom took my savings, when she told me I didn't deserve a future, something snapped. The attic, those letters gave me a way to say I'm here, I matter. Sending them to Josh wasn't my proudest moment, but it was the moment I stopped being invisible. I'm still figuring out who I am without my family's shadow. I'm saving again, not just for a house, but for me. Maybe a trip, maybe a class, maybe just the peace of knowing I can stand on my own. I've started journaling, writing down what I want, not what Mom or Emily expect. It's scary starting over with nothing but a studio apartment and a few bucks in the bank. But it's also exhilarating. For the first time, I'm not living for anyone else's approval. If I could go back, would I send those letters again? I don't know. They hurt people, Mom, Emily, even Josh. But they also set me free. I learned my worth isn't tied to what my family thinks of me. It's in the choices I make, the life I build. Sometimes you have to walk away to find yourself, even if it means burning bridges. I'm not proud of the chaos I caused, but I'm proud of the woman I'm becoming, one who knows she deserves more than being an afterthought. So that's my story. I lost my $15,000 savings, my family's trust, and the life I thought I'd have, but I gained something bigger myself. Walking away from Mom and Emily, sending those letters, it wasn't pretty, but it was the first time I chose me. Now I'm building a life on my terms, $1 one day at a time. Have you ever had to stand up to your family to fight for your own worth? Drop your stories in the comments, I'd love to hear them. It's messy, it's hard, but sometimes breaking free is worth it. If this hit home, hit that like button, subscribe, and check out my other videos about starting over. Let's keep this conversation going. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.